All right, world, how you doing? Welcome to the Spin the Wheel podcast, once again with the Edi Johnston Bit. This is me and my cup of tea, and all ready for another chat with some random questions from me spinny wheel. How have you been? Everyone all right? It's great to see that the weather's getting that little bit brighter, and going outside seems, a whole lot more favourable now. So we're closing in on normality. Let's keep going, shall we? Let's keep going. So you've joined me here for a chat, and my chat today is the wonderful Tandy Houghton. Tandy is someone I've only really properly met recently. I've known her online for a little while, but we're part of a comedy writing group. She's a comedy writer from down south and does a load of stuff online, writing for other people, as well as her own podcast, Vodcaster, however you want to call it, the Comedy Driven Life. So I'm looking forward to this. You ready? Here we go. Spinny's ready. I'm ready. You ready? Let's do this. Spin the wheel. Hello and welcome again to another Spin the Wheel podcast with me, the Edi Johnston Bit, and the wonderful Tandy Houghton. How are you, my dear?
Hello, I'm very good, thank you. Still waking up.
It's an early one today. It is early. I know this goes out early in the morning anyway. It doesn't matter when you're listening to it. Obviously, you could be doing all kinds of things at various different stages of the day, but it's early for us. So we bear that in mind in terms of our answers. But, it doesn't really matter. The wheel doesn't care. I know you a little bit from being online, but we've only really met recently. So tell me a little bit about you. Whereabouts are you based?
I'm in Eastbourne.
Oh, down south.
Yeah, by the seaside.
Nice.
And yeah, I suppose places that I've done comedy most would be Eastbourne, Brighton and London. I've done other places, but yeah.
And do you class yourself as a comedy performer or a comedy writer primarily? Which is your go-to?
Well, I was performing stand-up. Oh, I suppose it's both. I was doing character stand-up before,
cool.
And a tiny bit of straight stand-up, and now I'm doing mostly writing, of course. So,
but you're also involved with a vodka. I'm going to say Vodcast. Is that the correct terminology?
That's the correct terminology, okay. Because it's not a podcast, because I keep saying to the other guys, so I do most of the work, all the editing work, and It takes me like 8 hours to edit an episode, and that's without all the faffing about with other things. But I keep saying to them, look, if you want it to be a podcast, just download the audio and put it online. I almost prefer it. I prefer to watch people. I like watching their faces. And
I also know your husband, Dan, who I was just chatting to a moment ago, and he's also involved in comedy, right?
He is now. Yeah. When I met him, he had been going along to some, or I knew of him, but he'd been going to some comedy in our local area just because he liked comedy. So we got him into, I say we, gosh, that sounds crazy, like me, myself and I. We got him to...
All of us, we ganged up on him.
Yeah. But I suppose like Andy and myself and my friends. So we got him to start writing, sort of prodded and poked him to start, we'll try some stand-up. And actually he's very funny on his own, without stealing other people's jokes. But mainly we've been working together on a project or two, writing for video and for film.
I guess that makes the dynamic at home quite interesting as well, right?
You know what? He works smart. He works hard but smart, or something like that.
Work smarter, not harder. Something along those lines, isn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
We can spend a lot of time together writing. And working on, he works on design and set design and stuff like that. So
nice.
So we seem to be able to manage it really well, and we like spending time together. We've only been married for a couple of years.
Cool.
So it works for us.
Nice one. Good stuff. Right, intro's over. Let's get to the wheel. You ready for this? Okay, I'm going to rephrase this a little bit, I think, because the question is, number 10, when did you realise this was going to be your life's pathway? Now, if you're not a full-timer, then it's just, when did you realise that this was going to be something that you really wanted to try and push and follow?
So I always pursued drama and all that kind of stuff, but then took like a break for I think throughout the noughties I wasn't really doing anything with it apart from I got a degree in media studies. But I think my first real connection to comedy, there's this guy in America, I don't know if you've heard of him, called Conan O'Brien.
I do, yes. Yeah, I do know Conan.
I used to sit when I was about, I suppose, between 18 and 22. They would bunch up all the episodes and play them, and Jay Leno as well. They would play them at the end of the weekend after all like the news and the footsie and all this stuff. And I would just sit there and watch them back to back. So I think when I look back now, I think that's the first time where I was like really like, oh my gosh, this is so good. He's like a genius. He's so funny. How can someone be so funny? And then I kind of I took like this hiatus from performing and stuff. And then in 2013 and then again in 2015, I did big shows at my church. Oh, cool. And people started saying, oh, you're really talented. Like the pastor he was lovely, but he was never someone that would approach you and talk to you because he was a bit like socially shy. Okay. And he came over and he just went, it's obvious that you are very talented then, or something like that. And I was like, oh, thank you, and seeing Parks and Rec around that time was like, oh, I miss acting so much. And I love that kind of comedic acting. Then Andy Kind and Paul Carenza, who's friends of ours now, they came and performed one after another. And I think I just messaged Andy Kind and I was just like, so, like, what are the rules to comedy? Because how do you do stand-up then? What are the rules, now I look back, he was just being lazy because he was like, yeah, I'll answer all those, but here. And he just put me in the group, Yeah. I don't know if he's ever answered it. Maybe there are. Maybe there's a lot I don't know.
Well, knowing Andy, I don't think he ever answered that. I imagine he's probably just, you know what, we'll just do and we'll let you sort things out for yourself.
And then, of course, I had the massive imposter syndrome, being in this group of people with people like Joanne Wright and Beck Hill, and just thinking, wow, I need to get out and I need to perform like now. So I just went out and started performing stand-up. Sorry, that's a really long answer, isn't it?
It's absolutely fine. All I'm asking is the question. You take it whichever way you want. That's a great story. I didn't realise that at all. So prior to being in the squad, you hadn't actually done like comedy performing?
I had performed in a comedic way before, because I had done quite a bit of like local performing. I was never part of like a theatre group, but I always seemed to get asked to do stuff like street pastors, they're like, can you write some stuff so we can perform it at our opening for this venue, that kind of thing. So I'd be like, yeah, sure. And it would always be ridiculously stupid. So I think I always had that I always had that want to be silly and funny and get a laugh with what I was writing. I always found, because I went to drama school and I thought that everyone was kind of lying about Shakespeare. And Shakespeare's great, but isn't it just a little bit too long? Like most plays, you're kind of done by like 3/4 of the way through. You're like, could we just round it up now? Like, I get the picture.
I get what's happening. Just wrap it up. Yeah.
And I just kept thinking, like, when people would say, I love Shakespeare, I went to see Midsummer Night's Dream 5 times at this, I'd be like, in my head, I was like, yeah, they're lying. Like, it was like not even a question. And now I realise that people really do love it. Yeah. They really do love it. And that is fine. But it's just not. And Shakespeare does comedy as well.
Oh, totally.
But even then, it's like, it's not really comedy because I'm not like, really, really laughing all the time. I'm like going, oh yeah, I see how you've made Shakespeare funny there, Sorry, that's terrible, isn't it?
Only saying what a lot of people think. There is that difference from doing things that are a bit funny within plays and within setups, and actually then deciding, okay, I'm going to go and stand on stage where all these people are looking at me and saying, go on then, make me laugh. And I completely understand what you mean about the imposter syndrome. Being a musical comedian inside of a comedians group where I look at that person. Okay, I know all their stuff. I know they make me laugh. What on earth am I doing involved with these lot? But all those people, incredibly supportive and lovely.
Absolutely.
So it's when you do get chatting to Andy Kind, or you get chatting to Joe Enright or Stephen Cookson or any of those guys, and they're just really nice people.
They are. I've spoken to Jo through Messenger and I was going to meet her, but I didn't get to meet her.
Was it not COVID? No, not one of those?
No, it wasn't COVID. It may have been children.
Okay,
wanting to go home. I'm not sure.
It's a similar thing, COVID, children. Yeah. Something got in the way, I'm not quite sure. Okay, number 14. Tell me about your favourite birthday.
My favourite birthday, I think, was Lisa Nicholson's 40th, and it was just before COVID, and it was so fun. And we went out. It was a surprise, so she didn't know.
Nice.
And we were at this yacht club or something, and she walked in, and we were all wearing like her face. We were wearing her like masks of her face. Masks. And then we had a great party, and then we used to work in a pub together. She was my manager, and we used to do this thing at the end of work where we all made it like a human pyramid. So we did that, and that felt really nostalgic. And Dan joined in, and he was like, "What are we doing?" So that one I would do.
How was her face when she walked in and saw all of her faces?
You know what? I couldn't see properly out of the mask, but I think she was excited. I think she was happy. I think she enjoyed it.
I don't know whether I'd find that exciting. Or whether I'd just want to run the other way. So it's quite nice as well, the fact that you've chosen somebody else's birthday as your favourite. A lot of people think back to their own, but I guess that one's quite fresh, I suppose, as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Plus
and then the focus isn't on you as well, so you can properly enjoy yourself, because I think birthdays can be a little bit like weddings. It's not even like you're having good conversations, you're just making sure that you've spoken to everybody.
Maybe on my birthdays I've never had. I'm always quite selfish on my birthdays. I guess I'm just an attention hog. So I like.
Do you make your birthday last a week?
I'd like to. I think I'm too old to justify that now. Up until the point that I get to the next significant milestone. I
tell people different days for my birthday so that I get this like ongoing.
I like that.
Yeah,
that's a good...
It's not a lie. It's because I'm very forgetful, so it's plausible.
It's my birthday this week. It might be Monday. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure I could get away with that one. I'm not that forgetful. What do you consider your biggest success or triumph?
It's got to be my children.
No, you're not allowed your children. Sorry, that's the caveat, because that's the obvious answer and it's a given. Okay, we'll grant you that. Okay, past that point.
That is really hard, actually, especially because I'm not that successful. Probably doing the Brighton Fringe, and I was going to say and pulling my neck out and having to cancel, but no, we did three really good shows with a lot of people.
Cool.
Please don't write in if you saw the show, but anyway, it went really well, and but I got whiplash on stage.
No way.
It didn't. I didn't react immediately to it, but we sat down and we watched the people that were after us, the show that was after us, and I knew I'd done something.
How did you do that?
The show was called The Sexist Pistols,
right.
And at the very beginning of the show, I come on as a kind of like dressed in punk gear, and I'm headbanging as well and just throwing myself around. Okay. I think I threw myself backwards into a wall. I don't know. I haven't seen the video yet. And then just carried on like you do. And I went to see the doctor because it started to be that I just couldn't look left or right. And the doctor said, "Yeah, you've got really bad whiplash, really bad." Nice. What was it? Was it a car accident or? And I was like, well, I was. So he signed me off for like 3 months or something like that, off of doing anything. He said, "You need to sit in bed and just every now and then just try and do that for a little bit, you know." No. And it was so painful, so painful. I just remember sitting in bed and just crying, not because I felt sorry for myself or the show or Kat, who had to carry on without me and it was a disaster, but just because it hurts so much. Yeah. Awful. Anyway, that's my greatest achievement.
Really puts all your other achievements really in their place, right?
Yeah.
So was that mean? I'm just imagining you having a doctor's note and your husband coming to ask you to do something can't. A little bit like getting a note for an excuse from PE. Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, I can't do cross country today. I've got whiplash. Okay, so biggest achievement, getting whiplash. Excellent. Okay, moving on. Where are we? Number 4. That's number 4, isn't it? Which means this is the fix. This means that I just get to ask you a question that I want. Oh, let's go with this one. Number 9. Who from your past would you most like to be able to see where you are now?
Do you mean see where I am now as in like they go, wow, you're really talented? Or like that they go, that's a nice room with PlayStations in? And
I mean, if you want to say Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen, it's entirely up to you. Take it however you like.
I'm going to take it a different sort of way. And just, I used to have this friend that we would go on adventures around where we lived. We had lots of fields and woods, and we had a swamp. We had a it was like the old term for a mental health
An asylum.
An asylum. And it was called the Asylum as well. Or it was called Hellingway Hospital.
Okay.
But it was referred to as an asylum. And I think it probably said asylum on the sign. And we would go and we would play in the woods behind there. And it was great. So I used to say to people, I used to love playing at the asylum. Because, when people would say, like, oh, it's not like it used to be. You can't go out. You can't go out and play. And I'd be like, oh yeah, the asylum. And then I'd realise, that not everyone had that. You kind of just think, you always think that everyone had the same childhood as you up to a certain age. But that was fun. There was a rope swing there, and It used to swing over like a ditch with a river running past it. Yeah. It was like that, when it's got like a piece of wood like that. So I went over the ravine. And it snapped, and I went all the way down. I still clung onto the piece of wood, like eating dirt and grass and moss and stuff, and crying as well. I cry a lot.
Great times.
And into the river. I felt so bad because loads of kids used to go and play there. So if you don't know it was me, I did that. I'm really sorry. And now it's all houses.
They just raise it to the ground,
they let everyone go.
What, from the asylum?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was a time that you would go to the sweet shop and there would be sort of people there that you thought they shouldn't be there, or they should have someone looking after them. I don't know what happened. And sometimes when we would still go to play in the woods in that in-between time, you would get people lurking around the woods.
It's mad, isn't it? If you think, as we're both parents, and I think now about if I'm letting my kids go out, and there's no way they'd be sent off and being able to, you just go, them not having mobile phones, money to ring me if they needed to, and just the amount of freedom that we were given as kids to just, they'll be right. I'm sure they're fine. Bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
I feel sorry for my children, but equally I'm part of the problem, I suppose, because I won't allow them to just run off and go and play.
They're so much safer now than we were, but at the same time, their freedoms are completely inhibited.
So I would see Kim again, who was my friend, one of my friends that I would do all that with, and I just don't see her anymore.
And do you think she'd be impressed with where you are now and what you're doing now? Or
I don't think it would surprise her at all, because I used to make her and Helen do like shows in my garage. We had like a double long garage, and I would practice in there on my own for hours and hours. I wanted to be Michael Jackson.
Okay.
And I didn't realize at the time that I couldn't. I thought if I tried hard enough, I'd eventually become him.
You'd be able to be Michael. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted my friends to sort of join in. So I would like make these dance routines and things like that. And then I would be like, no, Helen, your arm up, left here, no, do it again. And I was like that with everything. I was like, we used to do marathons and things like that. And I would make all the kids in the street run for the whole day. Like there was no, like they could go in for lunch or, but then they come out
when you said it was okay for them to go.
Right. Yeah. Or when their parents gave me like, side eye.
You sound like an absolutely fascinating child.
Yeah, if I was in my element, I would be bossy. I was just thinking, but I was with everything else. I wasn't. So I wasn't confident with academics or with school or anything like that. So, but if I was doing something that was creative, I would be. This is what we're doing,
I've just got mental images of you stood on the corner with a clipboard, like James has only done 3 laps. Come on, James, pick it up, and just trying to get these kids.
I don't do counting. I don't do counting. No, it would be literally like we do it all day, and they're like, "When does it end?" I'm like, "It's just all day."
And they went with it.
And we all enjoyed it pretty much. We like to challenge,
and you were very persuasive by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, didn't expect all of that story from that particular question. Very pleased it happened. It's a very satisfying sound. No, we've had that one already. come on now. I've had that one already. Triple spin. Who'd have thought? Number one. Who most inspires you?
So again, talking about comedy and the creative stuff, I would say Fred Armisen. He's a Saturday Night Live
You've had him on your vodcast, right?
Had him on the vodcast, and I've also interviewed him on a podcast. Again, a bit like Conan O'Brien, although he's completely different. Yeah. They're completely different people, but his humour is so silly and a bit off the wall and subtle. It can be really, really subtle. There's something about that I really like. That kind of very.
What for people listening? What kind of stuff might they possibly have come across him in or doing?
So he's got a Netflix show called Just for Drummers. I've forgotten the actual title, but it's for drummers because he was in a punk band before he did anything else, and he was the drummer. My friend will text me. She will text me. Oh, I've just seen. She calls him Friend Armisen.
Nice.
Just seen Friend Armisen again in another thing, and I'm like, yeah, he is. He's in so much stuff. Parks and Rec was the first time I think I saw him. Yeah. No, I probably saw him before that, but I didn't realise. He's in Last Man on Earth. He's in Brooklyn Nine.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's Militnos, I think the character name is.
Yes.
He's got a really weird spelling to his name. Portlandia, which ran for just like
all over the place, right?
All over the place, yeah.
So why do you think he's an inspiration for you?
I suppose he's half Venezuelan and I'm half Colombian, and that's basically the same place. It used to be the same country. Yeah. Our mothers are both a big influence on, I suppose, character comedy and the kind of comedy that you've got that accent. I mean, I'm putting words in his mouth. I think he says that he would have done accents anyway. He's very multicultural because he has like a Korean grandfather and a German father and lived in different countries other than the one that he was born in. And it's the same for me. So I was born in Swaziland. My dad's English, my mom's Colombian. We lived in Nepal and Poland, and my dad lived in Johannesburg, and I'd go and see him. And I think I love people and characters because I suppose maybe because of those experiences and just knowing that I love accents. I love accents and I love people cultures. And I think it's a real shame that people are so quick to say that you're racist these days. I know you should be called out on it if you're being racist. You should be, absolutely. But I think loving the difference in cultures, loving part of that culture and portraying it in a character or something, or just learning their accent or the language, I think is something to be celebrated.
I didn't know that in terms of your heritage and your background, I didn't know that it was so diverse. I could ask how a Colombian meets an Englishman in Swaziland or whatever it was, but it sounds like there's far too much detail involved in that. But it's proper mixed up heritage from all over the place. When did you first come to England in terms of living here?
I came officially for the long stay, I think in 1987.
Okay.
But I had lived here before because my dad worked for the Foreign Office, and you kind of come back and then you go out again, you come back, go out.
Yeah. So. I watched. Did you see? Was it The Serpent on BBC with the?
No, I've heard.
Oh, it's amazing! Many people say it's good. Such a good show. It's based around the Foreign Offices over in Thailand, and it's the Dutch and the Belgian embassies and stuff like that. So just the way that they speak about, well, you'll be sent back and then you'll be sent somewhere else. I can imagine your early upbringing was probably very much you go wherever you're told to.
That's right. Well, I suppose you do get a choice, but it is a bit like that. So that was the norm for me. So I just kind of felt like that's just normal childhood. And then when we settled, because my parents separated, my mum had become naturalized, so she couldn't go back to Colombia, I don't think. Okay. My dad stayed in Nepal, and the three of us, my brother, my mum and myself, we moved back to England.
Yeah.
And so I was raised by a Colombian in England, sometimes because people just see me because I'm white, people don't realise the cultural aspect. And even my mum doesn't realise how much of a difference it's made to me. I'm like, Mum, imagine you live in Africa, but your mum was Italian and you were just raised by an Italian, and she couldn't do the schoolwork with you when you got home. She just didn't, it was different to her. It makes a huge impact on you. So then because she's always like, why have you bought a Colombian football t-shirt? Why is that important to you? And I'm like, because I'm not even like an eighth. I'm half Colombian. It's like half, you know, it means something to me.
Yeah, completely.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the question now.
It's all right. I was just interested by your background and your heritage, I guess. I haven't known you for that long, and when you do chat, you don't come across Colombian, but obviously it's massive in terms of your upbringing. It's massive in terms of what it means to you as a person.
Yeah, thank you.
I hadn't really considered the whole thing of going home from an English school, going back home to a Colombian mother who's then trying to help you work out all about the English history that you're learning.
The best time she helped me with homework was with geography, because we were just colouring a bar graph and I didn't have much time to finish it. And she coloured this bar graph for me. And then I got marked really badly because she wasn't sure where my level should be. And she just did it really bad because she was like, it's children's homework. You know, it's got to look like a child did this. And then the teacher was like, come on, stay inside the lines. I was like 14 or something.
I can just imagine. Normally, most parents will be like, right, I'm going to do this as good as possible so my child gets the best grade. No, I don't want them to see that I helped her.
Come on, Carlita, come on. She calls me Carlita. Come on.
And from that bombshell, right, last spin, here we go. If you had an evening at home on your own with no calls, socials or chats to disturb you, what would be your go-to film or TV programme?
We had Alice Fraser on the podcast, on the Vodcaster.
See, it's getting to you as well now.
Yeah. And something she said resonated with me, that she said she doesn't watch anything unless she's with someone else. And her taste is kind of whatever their taste is. I wouldn't go as far as that, but okay. I find it hard to get into something on my own. I think because I get so distracted. And if I'm with someone else, I can go, sorry, just can you pause that? What's happening now? So they can fill me in. But I love watching roundtables and interviews.
Oh, wow.
I love people, like I said. So I almost like watching the people discuss their work as much as I like watching the work. So I would probably watch with someone else. I would watch the show. But on my own, I would like to watch like a Hollywood roundtable or like just go back and watch interviews like those old Conan O'Brien interviews and things like that. That's the kind of thing. Just watch my favourite people on YouTube and the things that they've done, I think.
Yeah, I like looking at the behind the scenes stuff. I'm a little bit nerdy like that. I like finding out, okay, well, that person and that person, they worked together before and you can see it in this bit. And yeah, I like all that. I think I remember as a kid finding out the fact that John Cleese had written Fawlty Towers with Polly. I can't remember the actress' name.
I can't remember her name right now.
Oh, that's infuriating and really bad.
We'll see it later and we'll be like,
that's so annoying.
I know that.
I remember finding that information out and thinking, oh. And that kind of gives you even more insight to the stuff that you're seeing.
So you were like, when DVD commentaries came out, you were like, this is for me. Yeah.
I love them. Yeah, my wife gets really annoyed because she's like, I just want to watch it and then go. And I'm like, I'll just watch the extras. I'll do that on my own. You go. And I'll, I'm a bit like that, to be fair.
And it's also like, you don't have to then watch it with other people. So like I used to have the Fight Club, like ages ago before it was like a cult movie or whatever.
Yeah.
I used to have the Fight Club box set and it was the big brown package. And I loved the commentary with David Fincher and Brad Pitt and Edward Norton.
Yeah.
And I would sit there and I'd just be like, okay, it's fine because they're explaining it all to me. So
obviously YouTube has just made it so much bigger in terms of, I watched a Simon Pegg commentary on certain scenes from Shaun of the Dead and from Hot Fuzz, and he's just sat there and every now and then he just pauses it and say, oh yeah, and this person back here, that's the editor's wife, and you go through all these bits and pieces of the reason why they chose to throw that particular record at that particular zombie, all of that, all of the little Easter egg details. I'm a proper sucker for.
I worked in a cinema when Hot Fuzz came out, and we had special big cinema bags for popcorn that were just Hot Fuzz on them, and I kept a load of them. I now realise that's stealing, but at the time I was like, they're so disposable, and we're selling them for like £9 each. But yeah, I've got them somewhere. I should dig them out.
Right. rather than just us divulge into
I wanted to say, have you seen Walking Dead? But we'll maybe talk about it another time.
The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
No, never seen it.
So good.
And
so
more
good.
to the point, I'm not allowed to watch it now because I've got a song which I wrote all about things that I've never seen, and that's one of the lyrics. So I
like your truth. I like your truth.
Yeah, I can't.
Your creative truth.
It's called I've never seen Breaking Bad, so that's not happening. So yeah,
I know people love Breaking Bad, and I love all the people that made it. But I found that I mean, it was intriguing while I was watching it, but I found it so draining because at the end of every episode, I'd be like, when what I expected was, you know, the guy from Malcolm in the Middle and this stupid storyline of him cooking up drugs and stuff. In my head, I was like, it's so silly, it's going to be great. But when I watched it, I was like,
yeah, I've never seen it, not one episode. And like I say, it's in a song now, so never going to. I mean, I could lie about it, but that doesn't seem right.
I'm a terrible liar. Really.
Okay, so let's just ask you this. Have you enjoyed spinning the wheel?
I have really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I think I've woken up now.
Okay. So if we started now, we'd get a completely different set of answers, right?
Probably.
Okay, well, seeing as we've got to the end of the wheel spins, let's get into a little bit of publicity. Tandy, what have you got going on? What can people find out about? Where can people find out about you?
People can follow my YouTube channel, Tandy Houghton. I'm on Instagram, and we will be putting up a YouTube channel this year, sometime in the fall, the autumn. It's going to be a series called The Big Red 10, and we're working on it at the moment, and we're really excited about it. And we've got everyone in place to do their bit, and we've written it. And
can you tell us anything about it at all? What is it?
It's like a series that we're putting on YouTube. It's going to be like 7 to 12 minutes, maybe slightly longer per episode, and there's about 12 episodes. And it's a comedy, and it's really silly. Again, my sense of humour, just really silly, but it does have a storyline.
Cool.
That's about as much as I would like to say.
That's fine. So we got a mini series coming up, YouTube later on in the year. The Big Red 10.
Yes.
Nice. Good. Well, I look forward to finding out a little bit more about that as the time comes closer.
Thank you.
But as for now, it's time to say goodbye. And thank you so much, Tandy Houghton, for spinning the wheel.
Thank you so much, Eddie.
Bye. And that was the wonderful Tandy Houghton. Tandy, that was lovely. Thank you so much for spending some time this morning. Sorry to get you up quite so early, but hey, it's always a problem when you're trying to take advantage of not having the kids with you, right? I really enjoyed having a little bit of a natter, particularly to someone. Most of these chats are with people I know fairly well, so it's always nice to start spreading your wings a little bit and starting to find out a little bit more about people you know just a little bit. And of course, don't forget, click, like, subscribe to the YouTube, rate it on the iTunes, and more importantly than anything else, tell people about it. Say, I found this new podcast and it's actually quite entertaining. So pass it on, let people know, and I'll be back next time with another guest for Spin the Wheel. I'll see you then. Ta-da.